Every once in a while, a film comes along that transcends its own franchise and even its own genre. Something that takes those elements that were once made for the purposes of entertainment and transforms it into real art. The Dark Knight is one of those rare films. The only other movie that I can compare this to is Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, and only in this way. Star Trek II was not made to be simply the next Star Trek film. Nicholas Meyer and others viewed it as a film like any other film, simply using the tools given to them by the series. And as a result, Star Trek II became more than just a good Star Trek film. It was a great film in its own right, able to contend with any great film in any other genre. It just happened to be a Star Trek film. So too, by focusing on this project as simply a film, not simply the next Batman film, Christopher Nolan created The Dark Knight, which can stand proudly on its own as a great film in its own right. It just happens to be a Batman film. The Dark Knight not only proves my rule that a good film can come from anywhere, but it adds, for me, an extra statement to that effect. A great film can come from anywhere. The film opens with a bank heist being pulled off by what seems to be a group of small-time thugs, all in clown masks. They've all been sent here to pull this off by one man known as the Joker, but none of them seem to know a whole lot about him, and they don't seem to take him very seriously even as they carry out his orders.
Every guy gets a share, 5 shares is plenty.
6 shares. Don't forget the guy playing the job.
He thinks he can sit it out and still take a slice. I know why they call him the Joker.
As the heist unfolds, it is discovered that this is actually a mob bank they're knocking over, and as each member of this little band does his job, they each take the other out one by one, until finally there is only one man left standing.
Think you're smart, huh? The guy that hired yous. He'll just do the same to you. Oh, criminals in this town used to believe in things. Honor. Respect. Look at you. What do you believe in, huh? What do you believe in?
I believe whatever doesn't kill you simply makes you stranger.
And so with his plan fulfilled, the Joker takes off with his money. Meanwhile, we're given an overview of what has been taking place in Gotham since the arrival of the Batman. The criminal element is running scared. Even the mere symbol of the bat shining in the sky is enough to deter criminals from their activities, no matter how small those activities are. That is all except for a group of mobsters engaging in a drug deal. They've all gathered in a parking garage because at this point it's as good a place as any, and they've brought dogs just in case they have a visit from the Batman. Unfortunately for them, it seems that the Bat has decided to show up, but then 2 and 3, until finally a whole group of imposters begin unloading on them with guns. The imposters are recognized immediately by the fact that they intend to kill, something that the real Batman would never do. Finally, the real Bat shows up to show the imposters how it's done, thwarting both the mobsters and his doppelgangers at the same time. He manages to capture the small-timers, but the higher-level guys manage to get away with a little help from the dogs. Batman seems to be having a bit of difficulty with those. With that job done, he shows up at the bank the Joker knocked over, although he doesn't seem to be very interested in that heist. He's here to confer with Gordon about the plan they've had in the works for a while to bring down the mob. The two men have devised a plan using marked bills to take down the mob financially. They've located the remainder of their money and are now set to move in. All they need now is a warrant, which can only be provided to them by the district attorney. So far, these two men, Batman and Gordon, have been the team responsible for bringing down crime in Gotham City. Gordon, with the men and resources capable of doing so, and Batman, the brains behind the operation, with his own special equipment necessary to get the job done. But then we are introduced to Harvey Dent, the third man in this trinity. Right from the get-go, Gotham's promising new DA is shown to be an optimist and a pursuer of justice with no taste for the criminal element in Gotham, no matter how necessary it may even be to some. Even when his life is threatened, he slugs the guy and then insists that the trial continue. Harvey is straight as an arrow and is backing the ideals that the Batman made possible, but when Gordon comes to see him about the warrants, we see the differences between these two men. Both are on the same side, both want the same things, but both have different ways of going about it. Dent will not let crime stand. But Gordon is a bit more flexible in that area. In his department, he is working with officers whom he knows were once corrupt, and very well could be corrupt at this very moment. But the way he sees it, he has to make a concession or two every once in a while just in order to get his job done. Unlike Dent, he does not have the luxury of letting his principles be enough. Sometimes, in order to stop crime in Gotham, he has to look the other way.
Gordon, I don't like that you've got your own special unit. And I don't like that it's full of cops I investigated at Internal Affairs.
If I didn't work with cops you'd investigated while you were making your name at IA, I'd be working alone. I don't get political points for being an idealist. I have to do the best I can with what I have.
Harvey concedes for the moment, giving them the warrants that they want, but he's still unhappy about the arrangement. Later, he and his girlfriend Rachel are joined by Bruce Wayne and some ballerina bimbo that he dug up, and everyone begins discussing the Batman and life in Gotham City since his arrival. This is just a conversation for Harvey, but for Bruce, it's a way of finding out what this guy is really all about, to see if this might be the man who could eventually replace the Dark Knight.
Who appointed the Batman? We did. All of us who stood by and let scum take control of our city.
But this is a democracy, Harvey.
When their enemies were at the gates, the Romans would suspend democracy and appoint one man to protect the city. And it wasn't considered an honor, it was considered a public service.
Harvey, the last man that they appointed to protect the Republic was named Caesar, and he never gave up his power.
Okay, fine. You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Look, whoever the Batman is, he doesn't want to do this for the rest of his life. How could he? Batman is looking for someone to take up his mantle.
Someone like you, Mr. Dent?
Maybe. If I'm up to it.
This is what we learned about the situation. Harvey Dent may always have been an optimistic, idealistic leader who despises crime and wants to see a safe and just Gotham. But in the days before the Batman, in the days that scum was allowed to rule the city, he was powerless, wanting peace and justice but having no way to usher them in. Batman changed that. He changed the landscape, parted the sea of corruption and fear, and allowed a man like Dent to step forward and put his optimism to good use. Batman did not create Harvey Dent. He simply set the conditions necessary for a man like Dent to thrive, and more importantly, to do his job. And now that the landscape has been changed forever, now that a man like Dent can serve the public as he should, the time is coming where Batman may no longer be necessary. Dent can soon continue in legitimacy what the Batman started with vigilantism. Meanwhile, the mob all gather in a nondescript location. They bring up in passing the heist that the Joker pulled off, but dismiss it as small time compared with the bigger picture they are now faced with. They know about Gordon's plans to seize their assets, and so the crime boss Lau has devised a plan of his own. He will put all the money into one account and flee to Hong Kong, where Gordon has no jurisdiction. And now in walks the Joker. A man that can walk with impunity into a room full of mobsters that he robbed, knowing that their priorities are so focused on what they perceive to be the bigger picture, they won't even take him seriously enough to try and eliminate him. The Joker explains that they have their priorities in a knot. Just as they don't take him seriously, they aren't taking the Batman seriously enough either. Batman is, after all, the reason why they have been beaten back to the point where someone has to flee all the way to Hong Kong. He suggests that rather than trying to constantly thwart all the symptoms, they go after the cause.
Dent, he's just the beginning. And as for the television's so-called plan, Batman has no jurisdiction. He'll find him and make him squeal. I know the squealers when I see them. And
what do you propose?
It's simple. We kill the Batman.
If it's so simple, why haven't you done it already?
If you're good at something, never do it for free.
How much you want?
Half. You're crazy. I'm not. No, I'm not.
He fucks with the mobster Gamble until he just can't take it anymore, but they all come to find that he came quite prepared. Now, note that no one in the mob had intended to do him any real harm. It was only in a momentary fit of anger that anyone made a move against him. And no one takes the Joker's offer seriously either, at least for the time being. At the moment, they see the Joker as simply that. A joke. However, for the moment, it seems that Lau's plan was a success. The whole operation was a bust for Gordon, and later the three men all meet. Batman seems to be there only to listen, but Gordon and Dent seem more interested in placing blame. Dent is furious at having the finger pointed at him. It was more than likely someone in his office that tipped off the mob, but who is Gordon to lecture him about corruption when he knowingly works with corrupt officers?
I could have taken his passport. I told you to keep me in the loop.
All that was left in the vaults were marked bills. They knew we were coming. As soon as your office got involved...
My office? You're sitting down there with scum like Wirtz and Ramirez and you're talking... Oh yeah, Gordon. I almost had your rookie cold on a racketeering beat.
Don't try and cloud the fact that clearly Maroney's got people in your office, Dent.
So we now have the three men on the roof. The three sides of the triangle of justice in Gotham. The straight-laced DA who plays by the rules and goes by the book. The seasoned lieutenant willing to do what it takes to get the job done. And Batman. A combination of both philosophies. Ultimately, the two men leave it to Batman to see to what needs to be done. And with that, the Batman can get to work in the way he works best. Alone. Fortunately, the crime boss Lau was attempting a partnership with Wayne Enterprises, and this gives Lucius Fox, the head of the board and Bruce Wayne's confidant, an excuse to go see him in Hong Kong, sneaking Bruce in along the way, of course. The two men devise a plan to infiltrate Lau in his building, and what ensues from this is a slab of pure, unadulterated awesome. When infiltrating the building, Bruce only adds to the people's perception of Batman. That is someone with an unlimited reach, capable of being anywhere, chasing down crime wherever it goes. A being that is almost supernatural and omnipresent. But seen between the cracks of that facade are a few touches that are distinctly human. When he apprehends Lau, he escapes with him in a plane. It's not the Batwing or the Batplane, it's just a regular, nondescript plane. Of course, all the criminals are too busy reeling from the fact that a giant bat just kicked their asses and carried off their boss, but anyone paying close enough attention would be able to see that the Batman is human after all. As Batman takes care of Lau, a few petty thugs bring to gamble what appears to be the dead remains of the Joker, but he soon springs to life, and we are finally told a bit about this man's backstory.
You wanna know how I got these scars? My father was a drinker and a fiend. And one night, he goes off crazier than usual. Mommy gets the kitchen knife to defend herself. He doesn't like that. Not one bit. So, me watching, he takes the knife to her, laughing while he does it. He turns to me, and he says, "Why so serious?" He comes at me with the knife. "Why so serious?" He sticks the blade in my mouth. Let's put a smile on that face. And... why so serious?
Now, at this point in the film, we don't feel too uncomfortable with the idea of the Joker. He's menacing and a bit off of his nut, but we at least understand him and what he wants. He wants to kill the Batman for money. And the backstory gives us an idea of why he is the way he is, and why he does what he does. At the moment, he is at least a villain that we can understand, and we can almost be comforted in that understanding. So with Lau returned, he does exactly what the Joker said he would do. He squeals. He makes an immediate deal with the DA, but Dent has a plan to get as many of the mobsters off the street as he can. He draws from a precedent of a RICO case where if you can charge one conspirator with a felony, you can charge them all. And finally, for the first time, the most powerful and desperate of Gotham's criminal element, who have been beaten back so badly by the optimism and justice that Batman made possible, begin to take the Joker a little more seriously. They decide to go with his plans, but unfortunately for the time being, the Joker can't help them. Dent makes the bold move of rounding up everyone involved in the criminal affairs and bringing them all to justice.
712 counts of extortion, 849 counts of racketeering, 246 counts of fraud, 87 counts of conspiracy murder, 527 counts of obstruction of justice. How do the defendants plead?
This is how effective Dent is as Gotham's White Knight. This is what he has reduced the criminal element to in Gotham. A room full of mobsters, all pleading for their necks at the same time. And after this, the Joker goes to work. His first target is one of the imposters we saw during the drug deal. He terrorizes and tortures the man, and then demands that Batman take off his mask and show everyone in Gotham who he really is. And every day he doesn't, someone else will die. As horrifying as this event is, though, it seems that Bruce is still putting this matter somewhat aside. He moves on to throwing Dent a fundraiser, and now he has made up his mind.
You know, when Rachel first told me that she was dating Harvey Dent, I had one thing to say. The guy from those god-awful campaign commercials, I believe in Harvey Dent. Yeah, nice slogan, Harvey. But it caught Rachel's attention. And then I started to pay attention to Harvey. And all that he's been doing is our new DA. And you know what? I believe in Harvey Dent. I believe that on his watch, Gotham can feel a little safer, a little more optimistic. Look at this face. This is the face of Gotham's bright future. To Harvey Dent. Let's hear it for him.
As he and Rachel have a moment to talk, he tells her that the moment where Gotham doesn't need Batman anymore is coming. The Dent put half of Gotham's criminals behind bars, and he did it without wearing a mask. Bruce is hoping that now that things are looking up in Gotham, maybe he and Rachel can finally be together. But as this fundraiser is going on, the Joker really starts to go to work, so far targeting 3 high-profile targets: Judge Cirillo, Commissioner Loeb, and Harvey Dent. But unlike Batman, the Joker doesn't resort to using high-tech weaponry or gadgets. He uses tools that are low-tech, bombs and desperate small-time criminals that no one would notice until it was too late. The Joker managed to infiltrate the police commissioner's office and take out he and a judge for the exact same reason he was able to walk right into a room full of mob bosses and walk out unscathed. Before now, how had people been reacting to the Joker?
What about this Joker guy?
One man or the entire mob? He can wait.
Who's stupid enough to steal from us?
Two-bit whack job, wears a cheap purple suit and makeup. He not the problem, he's a nobody.
Neither the side of justice nor the side of crime in Gotham was giving the Joker the time of day. Only after the Joker was able to sneak right under their noses and take out a few important targets did anyone even notice him. And by then, it was too late. Just as Batman uses people's fear to battle crime, the Joker uses people's complacency to battle order. While Batman and the mob were duking it out in Hong Kong, the Joker was entrenching himself in small but effective areas of Gotham. And now it is going to be very difficult to get him out. But with his first 2 targets down, the Joker now arrives at Wayne's building to deal with Harvey. He interrogates a few of the guests until Rachel tries to intervene. And then he tells her something that changes everything.
You look nervous. Is it the scars? You want to know how I got them? Come here. Hey. Look at me. So I had a wife, beautiful, like you, who tells me I worry too much, who tells me I ought to smile more, who gambles and gets in deep with the sharks. Hey, one day they carve her face. We have no money for surgeries. She can't take it. I just want to see her smile again. I just want her to know that I don't care about the scars. So, I stick a razor in my mouth and do this to myself. And you know what? She can't stand the sight of me. She leaves. Now I see the funny side.
Now I'm always smiling.
The moment where we felt we knew this man is gone. Just like his plans to take down Gotham, he is making up his own identity as he goes along. And that last shred of comfort in thinking that we understand this man is gone as well. Now we don't know what to make of him. We don't know what to think, and we don't know how to fight him. But for the moment, however, Batman and the Joker slug it out for a bit, and Bruce manages to save Harvey's life. But soon after, the Joker strikes again, killing a few officers in a twisted name game and targeting the mayor next. Bruce and Alfred go to work on the forensics in an attempt to track something down that they can use, and they also use this time to discuss what's happening here. Bruce tells Alfred that the mob has gone too far. Alfred agrees, but reminds Bruce that he went too far first. He beat them back so far into the corner that they are now willing to turn to anyone just to save their way of life. Alfred seems to be taking the Joker more seriously than anyone, and that is because he understands something that Bruce doesn't.
A long time ago, I was in Burma. My friends and I were working for the local government. They were trying to buy the loyalty of tribal leaders by bribing them with precious stones. But their caravans were being raided in a forest north of Rangoon by a bandit. So we went looking for the stones. But in 6 months, we never met anyone who traded with him. One day, I saw a child playing with a ruby the size of a tangerine. The bandit had been throwing them away.
So why steal them?
Well, because he thought it was good sport. Because some men aren't looking for anything logical, like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
From this point on, that story is going to be playing in the back of our minds whenever we see the Joker do anything. Not only is he a modern-day version of the Bandit, but the story introduces a concept that is remarkably unsettling. That there have been men like this before in the world. Men who don't want anything but mindless destruction. Alfred seems to understand this, but for the moment, Bruce hasn't quite figured that out yet, and still seems to think that there is something about the Joker that he can understand and exploit. The next day, a funeral for Commissioner Loeb goes on as planned, and as Bruce's investigation reveals a few clues, he sets off to try and track down a lead. Unfortunately, it proves useless in stopping the Joker, who shows up personally to try and take the mayor out. And this is what the Joker has now reduced the city to. A mob of panicking citizens running scared in the streets. Harvey walks right through the chaos in a calm, but soon discovers one of the Joker's next targets. Unfortunately, it's Rachel. As soon as he realizes this, he takes off with the thug and tries to interrogate him. And here, for the first time, we see Harvey coming slightly undone, holding a gun to the man's head and flipping a coin to decide if he lives or dies, or so it would seem. As unflappable as Harvey has come across so far, we have now found one thing that can shake him. He flips out in a rage at the mere threat on Rachel's life, and now threatens to destroy all that he worked for just to try and save her life. Fortunately, Batman stops him before any real damage is done.
You're the symbol of hope I could never be. Your stand against organized crime is the first legitimate ray of light in Gotham in decades. If anyone saw this, everything would be undone. You're gonna hold a press conference tomorrow morning.
Why?
No one else will die because of me. Gotham's in your hands now.
You can't. You can't give in. You can't give in!
So Gotham has now succumbed to fear and intimidation. A lot of high-profile figures have died. Terror can seem to strike anywhere. And now we come to find that Jim Gordon has died in the line of duty as well. This is the moment where both Batman and Bruce Wayne are left not knowing what to do. He is watching citizens die, the very citizens that he became Batman to protect. His friend Gordon has died, and now his friend Rachel might be next. And for the first time, it is now Batman who knows what it's like to be backed into a corner. He created this symbol to inspire Gotham. But what good is a symbol of hope if it's powerless to stop the killing? What good is the symbol of Batman when it results in nothing but death after death every moment that it remains, for no other reason but that it exists? And for the first time, the symbol of hope begins to lose hope himself.
People are dying, Alfred. What would you have me do?
Endure, Master Wayne. Take it. They'll hate you for it, but that's the point of Batman. He can be the outcast. He can make the choice that no one else can make. The right choice.
Today I found out what Batman can't do. He can't endure this. Today you get to say I told you so.
Today, I don't want to.
And so with what seems like no other alternative, Bruce decides to come forward and reveal himself to be the Batman. But Harvey Dent will not let that stand.
Should we give in to this terrorist's demands? Do we really think that he's gonna...
rather protect an outlaw vigilante than the lives of citizens?
The Batman is an outlaw. But that's not why we're demanding he turn himself in. We're doing it because we're scared. We've been happy to let the Batman clean up our streets for us until now.
Things are worse than ever.
Yes, they are. But the night is darkest just before the dawn. And I promise you, the dawn is coming.
No more dead cops!
He should turn himself in!
So be it. Take the Batman into custody. I am the Batman.
And now everything has come full circle. Batman was the figure who allowed for Dent to come forward, and now in complete symmetry, it is Dent who allows Batman to come forward. Dent has the plan of being arrested as the Batman himself and being transferred to a facility in order to lure the Joker out of hiding so that the real Batman can take him down. That plan is soon set in motion as soon as Dent is moved, but it's important to understand that these men did not make a plan between them. This isn't something that they all set up in advance. Just as the Joker's plans hinge on his trust of the worst in humanity, what is driving this plan is the trust that Batman and Dent have in each other. As the chase ensues, the Joker lays down a few traps and roadblocks, and once again remains low-tech, merely tipping over a fire truck and setting it on fire. The most high-tech he goes is a missile launcher he uses to try and take out Dent's transport. And while the Batman chases after him in an armored tank and then in a souped-up motorcycle, one of the Joker's greatest weapons in all of this is a simple wire connected to two buildings. Finally, Batman forces the Joker out of his truck and is face-to-face with him for the first time. And also for the first time, he is momentarily conflicted about what to do.
Come on, I want you to do it, I want you to do it. Come on! Come on, I want you to do it, I want you to do it. Come on, hit me. Come on, hit me. Come on, hit me! Ah! Hit me!
As he always does, the Batman chooses not to kill. And then it is revealed that Gordon is in fact alive. He faked his death in order to protect his family. With the Joker in custody, Gordon is then promoted to police commissioner to replace Loeb, and after the chase, Harvey is questioned about the operation.
I'm no hero. Gotham's finest, they're the heroes.
But you and your office have been working with the Batman all along.
No, but I trusted him to do the right thing. Which was? Saving my ass.
All right, people, that's enough.
Once again, the key to even their first minor victory over the Joker was trust. But there's a problem. It turns out that after that interview, Dent turned up missing. Fortunately, the Joker is in their custody for Batman to interrogate. However, at this point, Batman still hasn't quite figured out what he needs to figure out. He enters this interrogation as if this was just any other criminal, beginning with brute force as if this was any other criminal, and accusing him of being garbage who kills for money as if this was any other criminal. He hasn't discovered what there is to understand about the Joker. The Joker, on the other hand, knows everything he needs to know about Batman, and he plays to every weakness he sees in him.
See, their morals, their code. It's a bad joke. Dropped at the first sign of trouble. They're only as good as the world allows them to be. I'll show you. When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other. See, I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve. Where's Dent? You have all these rules, and you think they'll save you. The only sensible way to live in this world is without rules. And tonight, you're gonna break your one rule.
I'm considering it.
You know, there's only minutes left, so you're gonna have to play my little game if you want to save one of them.
Yeah.
You know, for a while there, I thought you really were, Dent. The way you threw yourself after her.
Where are they?
Killing is making a choice.
Where are they?
Choose between one life or the other. Your friend, the district attorney, or his blushing bride to be. You have nothing to threaten me with. Nothing to do with all your strength. Don't worry, I'm gonna tell you where they are. Both of them. And that's the point. You'll have to choose. He's at 250 52nd Street, and she's on Avenue X. That's just it.
Batman then leaves the Joker, and when asked which one he's going after, he answers without the slightest hesitation. He's going after Rachel. Meanwhile, Harvey and Rachel are able to communicate with one another during their captivity. Rachel has been told that only one of them are going to make it out alive, and that it will be left to their friends to decide which one will live. Well and good for Dent, because just as he put his trust in his friends during the Joker chase, so too is he putting his trust in them to save Rachel. At the last minute, Rachel recalls Harvey's earlier proposal of marriage, and she says yes. And then the worst happens.
No! No, not me! Why are you coming for me? No! Rachel! Rachel!
Harvey. Okay.
Rachel!
Harvey, it's okay. It's all right. Listen. Someone... No!
Rachel!
In the rubble that now stands as Rachel's final resting place, Batman recovers a coin. The coin Harvey used to win his first date with Rachel. The coin he used to interrogate the psychopath in the alley. A double-sided coin, which like Dent is now left mutilated. Rachel's death leaves all involved in a quiet, not knowing what to say or what to do next. Harvey has been horribly scarred but is refusing surgery or pain medication. Batman returns his coin to him, but the man we knew is gone. As the Joker surrounds himself with the fruits of his labor, one of the mob bosses comes to discuss the matters with him, and here is the Clown Prince, who got half of the takings that he demanded, and he burns it all. Like the bandit who threw the jewels away, we now see the Joker for what he truly is. Dent will soon see that as well, but for now, seeing the Joker take everything of value that he worked for and reduce it to worthless ash, seeing that large pile of money burn in the background as the Joker laughs and cackles about it, it's just one of the most ominous things I've seen in a film. As Bruce pines over the death of Rachel, a new problem surfaces, however. Someone at Wayne Enterprises has discovered that Bruce Wayne is Batman and intends to go public with that knowledge. However, in another turnaround of what we believe to be his prime motivations, the Joker makes another hard left.
I've had a change of heart. I don't want Mr. Reese spoiling everything, but why should I have all the fun? Let's give someone else a chance. If Coleman Reese isn't dead in 60 minutes, then I blow up a hospital.
This continues one of the Joker's only consistent character traits, other than being batshit crazy, of course. That of setting up impossible moral choices that have no right answer. Do you kill one innocent man to save a hospital full of innocent people? Is there ever a circumstance where that is an acceptable solution? And if so, is this one of those circumstances? As our heroes go to work trying to stop him, we see that the hospital the Joker intends to blow up is the very hospital where Harvey is recovering, and the Joker has personally come to pay him a visit. Naturally, Dent's first instinct is to rip the Joker apart, but as the two of them talk, Dent finally begins to understand.
When you and Rachel were being abducted, I was sitting in Gordon's cage. Now, I didn't rig those charges.
Your man. Your plan.
Do I really look like a guy with a plan? You know what I am? I'm a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it. You know, I just do things. The mob has plans. The cops have plans. Gordon's got plans. You know, they're schemers. Schemers trying to control their little worlds. I'm not a schemer. I try to show the schemers how pathetic their attempts to control things really are.
This conversation clues Dent into the very thing that it has taken Batman so long to grasp. Something that even now the Dark Knight can't quite see, but that Dent now understands perfectly. There is nothing to understand. There is no great scheme behind this man or what he does. No person to make pay. No great plan to thwart. As we've seen in this and other scenes, this could have ended at any time for the Joker. He could have been killed when Batman chased him down. He could have been killed in coming to see Dent. It doesn't matter to him, because what the Joker stands for will still live and thrive in the actions of others that he influences. Not because of what he's doing, but because of what he is. This entire movie has been about more than just Batman versus the Joker. It is about what Batman represents versus what the Joker represents. One side being a symbol for order and justice, and one side being a symbol for chaos and destruction. It is a war being waged for Gotham's very soul, which is why in the beginning we saw the soldiers in that war wearing the representations of these two symbols, the criminals wearing the symbol of the Joker, and the citizens wearing the symbol of the Batman. Far more important than who these men are is what they represent. Bruce Wayne created Batman to be an incorruptible symbol, but unfortunately for him, that knife cuts both ways. The Joker symbol is also incorruptible, immutable, unstoppable. And just like Batman, Harvey has nothing to threaten him with. Chaos is not just aimless, it's motiveless. This is not an evil that can be understood. It is not an evil that can be defeated, brought to justice, or tried in any conventional way. This kind of evil can only be endured, and hopefully, it can only be stopped. Dent has let the Joker live, for the same reason that Dent is alive. For the same reason he now sees everything happening in his world. Not due to some well-thought-out decision or weight of pros and cons, but by the flip of a coin. 50-50. The same odds that Rachel got. We had seen before that the mere threat against Rachel's life was enough to send him into a rage, but not enough to push him over the edge. Now that she's dead, it sent him into a quiet depression, even allowing himself to willingly suffer the pain of his scars. But even her mere death might not have been enough to send Harvey over the edge completely. What ultimately pushed him one step too far was this. Rachel isn't just dead because of some devious plot or random assassination. She is dead because he is alive. She is dead because he put his trust in people, and those people he trusted saved him instead of her. His ideals and his methods resulted in his love's death and gained him nothing but capturing the Joker, which he now sees as futile. And he is now resolved to track down and bring his random method of justice to the people who he can hold responsible, the people that should have known better, the people who gave the Joker the means to do this in the first place. And then he comes to find that it was the corrupt cops in Gordon's unit. The very people he tried to warn Gordon about, the very people that Gordon chose to let slide for the greater good. And for the greater good, Rachel is now dead. The people that he trusted to do the right thing are the ones who allowed the scum of Gotham to slip through the cracks. He holds them responsible for Rachel's death, and he now sets out to track them down one by one. As this is going on, it seems the Joker has now captured the entire city through fear, and now makes one final demand.
You failed to kill the lawyer.
I've got to get you off the bench and into the game.
Come nightfall, the city is mine. And anyone left here plays by my rules. If you don't want to be in the game, get out now. But the bridge and tunnel crowd are sure in for a surprise. Ha 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 ha.
However, there's a surprise. Batman has constructed a device that can monitor every cell phone in Gotham, not exactly breaking his rules of conduct, but bending them significantly. Once again, he is letting a few injustices slide for the greater good, but this may be a little too much for Lucius to accept.
This is wrong.
I've got to find this man, Lucius.
At what cost?
The database is now key encrypted. It can only be accessed by one person.
This is too much power for one person.
That's why I gave it to you. Only you can use it.
Spying on 30 million people isn't part of my job description. I'll help you this one time. But consider this my resignation. As long as this machine is at Wayne Enterprises, I won't be.
When you're finished, type in your name.
With his new equipment, the Batman sets off to track down the Joker. Gordon's men have already trained their snipers on what they believe to be the criminals holding the citizens captive, but it turns out the Joker had the hostages dress up in the Joker masks, with the criminals pretending to be the hostages. So as soon as Gordon's men open fire, the hostages are dead. Damn. I mean, just damn. Luckily, Batman saves the day with the help of his new equipment, but now for the Joker's grand finale. As we've seen, the war between Gotham's soul is being waged between two groups, Gotham's criminal element and Gotham's citizens. And now we have a physical representation of that war, the criminal element on one boat and the citizens on the other.
Each of you has a remote. Blow up the other boat. At midnight, I blow you all up. If, however, one of you presses the button, I'll let that boat live. So, who's it gonna be? Harvey Dent's most wanted scumbag collection, or the sweet and innocent civilians? You choose. Oh, and you might want to decide quickly, because the people on the other boat may not be quite so noble.
The two sides proceed as you would expect. The criminal element makes a more direct move towards the button, while the citizens try to justify the decision to kill by putting it to a vote. But in the end, both decide not to play the Joker's game.
What were you trying to prove? That deep down, everyone's as ugly as you. You're alone.
It seems the Joker has finally been stopped, but just as always, he is prepared, thinking more than one step ahead. And he informs Batman of the corruption of Harvey Dent.
You didn't think I'd risk losing the battle for Gotham's soul in a fistfight with you. Oh, you need an ace in the hole. Mine's Harvey.
What did you do?
I took Gotham's White Knight, and I brought him down to our level. It wasn't hard. See, madness, as you know, is like gravity. All it takes is a little push.
Dent has taken Gordon's wife and son hostage, using the same corrupt officers Gordon used that led to Rachel's death. Batman arrives just in time to try and reason with him, but it does little good.
You don't want to hurt the boy, Harvey.
It's not about what I want. It's about what's fair! You thought we could be decent men in an indecent time!
The world is cruel, and the only morality in a cruel world is chance. Unbiased, unprejudiced, fair. His son's got the same chance she had. 50-50.
What happened to Rachel wasn't chance. We decided to act. We three.
Then why was it me who was the only one who lost everything?
It wasn't.
The Joker chose me!
Because you were the best of us. He wanted to prove that even someone as good as you could fall.
And he was right.
You're the one pointing the gun, Harvey. So point it at the people responsible.
Fair enough. You first. Tell your boy it's gonna be alright, Gordon. Lie. Like I lied. It's going to be alright, son.
In the end, Harvey lies dead. The symbol of hope that Batman could never be. A better man than Batman. A man who chose never to compromise, never to let crime stand, not even for the greater good. But as much as Gotham deserves a man like Harvey, as much as Gotham deserves unwavering justice and commitment to law and order in Gotham, the greater good is what Gotham needs at the moment. It needs Batman.
Gotham needs its true hero. You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I can do those things, because I'm not a hero. Not like Dent. I killed those people. That's what I can be.
No, you can't. You're not.
I'm whatever Gotham needs me to be. Call it in.
And so for the greater good, Batman throws himself upon the sword, becoming Gotham's enemy in order to save it. As much as Batman represented order and the Joker represented chaos, Dent represented Gotham's future, Gotham's hope. And that is far more important than any symbol that has come before, even the symbol of the Batman. In order to preserve what Dent inspired in Gotham, Batman must be its Dark Knight. One of the most impressive things about this film for me is that I didn't love it the first time I saw it. I certainly liked it, but as a sequel to Batman Begins, it just didn't grab me the way that Begins did. There was just that feeling you got of watching Bruce really figure out what he wanted Batman to be, the process of trial and error where he made mistakes and learned from them. But one of the most enjoyable parts of Begins for me was the way the Batman swooped down out of the shadows and took people out without a trace. The way he integrated all of his gadgets into the equation without anyone really catching on as to where it all came from. Watching Bruce build Batman from the ground up was a real joy, and seeing him surprise the criminal element of Gotham, who thought that they were untouchable, was a real delight. I just didn't get that in The Dark Knight. It all seemed very routine in that world now. Criminals expected the Bat and prepared for it. Everyone seemed so cautious of him, but no one really seemed afraid, at least no more so than they would any other vigilante. Hell, they went up against any other vigilante and were about as afraid of them. Batman just didn't have anywhere else to go, and it came off as him doing the same thing with nothing new to contribute to it. There was that lack of optimism and thrill of discovery in The Dark Knight. Those how am I even gonna do this moments were severely lacking. The only time I really felt that was when Batman captured Lau. Seeing him mysteriously invade the building and then disappear in a plane was the only moment that recaptured that for me. But even then I had a problem. Whereas in Batman Begins, Batman would swoop in out of the shadows and yank people off the streets, here he just comes bursting in through the window and beats them to a pulp. I felt like they were really trading in stealth for brute force with him, and that made Batman a much less interesting crime fighter for me. After all, one of Batman's staple abilities is the ability to become the Knight, as it were, and take out 10 guys at once without making a sound or leaving a trace. This Batman is just a brute. Those were my first impressions of the film the first time I saw it. But as I started seeing it a second time, and then a third, and then a fourth, and so on, I thought about all the story elements they packed into the screenplay. The idea of escalation, of blind desperation in Gotham's criminal syndicates, the impossible moral dilemmas that would have given even Aristotle a headache, good falling from grace, people trying to find hope in a hopeless situation, the idea of peace, justice, anarchy, chaos, optimism, pessimism. And then something occurred to me. All of these great ideas and story elements in this screenplay, and I'm complaining about the way he beat them up. I came to realize that while the entertainment value may have been higher with Batman Begins, The Dark Knight was attempting to do something deeper than that. Deeper than just seeing Batman become Batman and battle crime. There were hard choices that needed to be made this time around, and all the players involved had different ideas of what those choices needed to be. You essentially had 3 different sides of justice battling against chaos, and none of them made the right decision every single time. Moreover, the face of chaos in this film was so masterfully done this time around that there was never much to complain about at all in that area. Heath Ledger's Joker is simply one of the best villains of any film ever made. As inconsistent and unpredictable as chaos itself, yet Ledger was able to play that in a way that didn't feel at all random. His actions were random, but his character was terrifyingly determined. Determined to see everyone in Gotham succumb to the fear of unknown and the fear of uncertainty. The Joker doesn't go after you. He goes after your way of life and your peace of mind, and he does it in a way that I have never seen before or since. Performances are something that I only talk about on rare occasions, but here I think it was very important. I can't imagine any other actor conveying all the things that this character conveyed, even with the exact same material. Ledger simply became anarchy, and he was able to make you scared as hell even when he was acting humorous. Not at all easy to do. And then, of course, you have Harvey's fall from grace. This is another one of the things that threw me off the first time, too. I think I was expecting a 3-act structure with this film, because that's what we got with Batman Begins, when it actually ended up having 4 acts. The first act depicting Batman and Dent's victory over most of Gotham's criminals, the second showing the Joker's baby steps into Gotham's system, eventually escalating into full-blown takeover, the third act with the 3 men being tested and trying to grapple with the Joker's many tests, and the fourth being Harvey's fall from grace. At first I thought that they should probably have left Harvey's story for another movie, until I realized that this is exactly where the film should have led. Gotham's symbol of true justice being pulled in 2 different directions, pulled by people who want 2 different things from him, order and chaos. Harvey's Two-Face is the 2 faces of Gotham, and in the end, Gotham's Dark Knight must make the face of justice the one that everyone sees and remembers. It's a great thing when you can watch a movie several times and continue to gain new insights upon each viewing, and that is exactly what happened to me with this film. The sheer number of issues and themes dealt with in The Dark Knight are striking and masterful. Now, having said all of this, there were a few problems I had in the beginning that I think are still there and don't really hold up very well. Bruce and Alfred's reaction to Rachel's death, for example. I left their reaction out of the review because, quite frankly, the writers left it out of the movie. I understand that they had a certain point they were trying to push with Harvey's reaction to her death, and maybe they didn't want Bruce and Alfred's reaction overshadowing that point, but come on! This was their family friend for years before she even met Harvey. This was the woman that Bruce was waiting for, and to sweep that under the rug and move on the way they did is a problem that definitely persists. But the problem that needs no introduction is, of course, the voice. It's easy to poke fun and parody this, but It actually isn't funny. It is in fact a very serious problem that affects the film negatively. This is far from being an aesthetic problem like the motorcycle, for example. I thought the motorcycle was fucking stupid, and I still do. I love the Bat Tank and wanted to cry when it blew up, but the motorcycle, ugh. It doesn't matter, though. The motorcycle is neither stupid nor not stupid. It did its job in the film and doesn't have any real objective flaw. I also heard from a lot of people who didn't like the Bat Tank either, but that doesn't matter either. These are aesthetic problems that have nothing to do with the objective merit of the film. Since we're only talking about the way Batman sounds, it may seem like the voice is an aesthetic problem as well, but it's not. As I said, this wasn't just an action flick this time around. People are talking about real important issues, and Batman is the star of the show. His is the most important voice of them all. And when your protagonist has something insightful and meaningful to say, it is of paramount importance that you be able to understand what he's saying. Here's a scene I will never forget seeing for the first time.
I think you and I are destined to do this forever.
You'll be in a padded cell forever.
I went back and saw this 3 more times in the theater, and I kept where that scene was in mind and looked out for it every time, paying special attention every time, because I couldn't understand what the hell he said. And I couldn't make it out the other times either. I finally understood it when it came out on DVD, and I was able to turn the damn captions on.
You'll be in a padded cell forever.
Oh, so that's what he said. And that's the thing, when your protagonist needs subtitles, you have a problem. The voice was most certainly a mistake, even those who love the film seem to agree that the voice was a mistake, but I think it's worse than just something we all make fun of on the internet. This is something they should be held accountable for. Fortunately, the subtext of the film was so strong that one could get by without understanding everything Batman is saying, and after the universally negative reaction to the voice, I'll be really surprised if this isn't corrected in The Dark Knight Rises. But problems aside, The Dark Knight stands as a great film, simply because it is about so much, and the characters fit perfectly into dual roles of being people and symbols at the same time. Batman Begins was certainly a good Batman film, but I think this is the one that people will really remember, the one that will stand simply as a great film.